Hello, everyone, and welcome to Every Bird Ranked. John and I are on a mission. We are going to rank every single living bird in the world, every bird group, on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. Or I guess a scale of 0 to 5 stars, right?
0 to 5, yeah.
0 to 5. So we're going to rank every single bird on 5 different attributes. Whether the bird is famous, whether the bird is diverse, whether it is amazing or has some amazing fact about it, whether it's intriguing, whether we want to learn more about it, and whether it is beautiful, which all of these, I think we all agree, are completely accurate, objective measures that should be very easy to determine whether we're right or not. You ready to get started, John?
Yep, let's get into this.
Awesome. I should plug Backyard Expeditions real quick. John over on Backyard Expeditions is always making brand new videos about wildlife. He's always going out to some interesting place somewhere in the world, and I'm constantly learning new things on his channel. So please go over and subscribe to Backyard Expeditions. Okay, now let's get started. The first bird group out of this group is the Accipiters. Pretty confident on that one. What do you think?
Yeah, the one group, the Accipiters. So it's like, yeah.
Awesome.
Something like that.
Okay, so there are 266 species in the Accipiters bird group, and the famous members are hawks, eagles, New World vultures, ospreys, and there's more, but those are the famous ones. Accipiters is home to the most birds that are national symbols and the most birds that airplanes are named after. These are almost all apex predators that swoop down from the sky and grab the food they want. Most have amazing daytime vision, including the hawks, which can see about 8 times more detail than humans can. The harpy eagle is one of the strongest birds in the world, able to apply 500 pounds per square inch with its talons. Are the Accipiters diverse?
So you have 200 plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got, you have a couple different kinds of hawks. You have both the Accipiters and the Bootios, which are 2 very different kinds of birds. You got secretary birds too.
Right, yeah. Okay, so very diverse. Let's give them the diversity star for that. Are these birds famous?
I'm pretty sure the eagle and the hawk are going to be in the top 10 for most people.
For sure. Yeah,
if not like the first, eagle might be like one of the first birds. Like it might be number 1 or number 2.
I'm wondering now if an eagle has the distinction of being the most sculpted bird in history.
Oh, I bet it does.
It could be a dove, but I bet it's an eagle.
The Greeks and the Romans had eagle standards. Probably the most images of birds are eagles.
Mm-hmm. It's on money. It's
on the Mexican flag. Right. There's an eagle on a couple state flags in the U.S.
It's the national bird of like several different countries.
Most countries, yeah. The golden eagle is like the national symbol of, I don't want to say half the countries in the world, but it feels like it. Yeah. Bald eagle, yeah. And then you got some of the weird ones, like harpy eagle is national bird of Panama. Philippine eagle is for the Philippines.
I think this is the definition of a famous bird. Governments are paying money to mass produce pictures of these birds and give them to people. Are these birds amazing? Do they have some kind of impressive trait?
I am so fascinated by especially the big predatory eagles that hunt big things. You've got the harpy eagles and like the Philippine eagle, which are hunting like sloths or monkeys or colugos or the flying lemurs. But then like golden eagles and like wedge-tailed eagles are hunting fairly large terrestrial mammals like young deer and kangaroos.
Wow, they're hunting kangaroos?
Yeah, I think the wedge-tailed eagle take down kangaroos. So this is a replica of an eagle talon.
Oh, that is so cool.
I think this looks like it's probably like a bald eagle.
Yee. You would not want that chasing after you.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with that. And then like a harpy eagles, I think those are like 6 inches. Those are like they're like the size of a grizzly bear claw.
Okay, I'm amazed right now. Let's give them the amazing star for their amazing talons. And I'm sure there are other amazing things about them as well, like how do they don't fall into the water when they grab something out of the water. There's plenty to be impressed by these birds. Are these birds intriguing? Do you want to learn more about them?
Just to cut this down, vultures are incredibly intriguing as they are the only obligate vertebrate scavengers on the planet. They don't hunt at all. They only scavenge. And they're the only vertebrates that have taken this. And they're really fascinating, especially in Africa, where over the course of a day, different kinds of vultures will completely consume an entire carcass down to basically just a smear on the ground, because you have vultures that eat hide, you have vultures that eat all the meat, you have vultures that pick up all the scraps, and then you got vultures that come in and eat the bones.
Wow. That's so cool. And are they active at different times during the day to like specialize in the different parts?
They just show up at different times where you
Wow.
get the hide eaters come in first, and then primary carnivores will finish it up.
Wow.
And it's just incredible to think that, like, yeah, on a savanna, carcasses don't exist very long, so they're not like festering. It's cleaned out within just a couple hours.
Wow. That'd be hard to design a system that could reliably find and clean up dead animals that quickly, and then nature just does it by itself.
Yeah, and it's really sad because most vultures are endangered now.
So if they disappear, the environment will also lose their services that they provide of cleaning up.
And they've seen that with increases in other carnivores that are more opportunistic. Feral dogs go up, and then rabies increases. So
Yeah,
there is
that's
a
a good point.
very strict like human health causes and benefits with vultures.
Wow. That is pretty intriguing, and it seems like we need to know more about how vultures work. Okay, so let's give them the intriguing star. Are these birds beautiful?
They're pretty much all beautiful, and pretty much all vultures, even though vultures might not be the most pleasant thing, like soaring vultures have a certain grace to them.
Yeah. But if you see a turkey vulture up close, like its face, it's very not beautiful.
They're very not beautiful bird. They're probably the least beautiful vulture, and they have a certain grace about them. So because they don't have the big
and they're far enough away that you can't see them.
And they don't have the big white patches. They're just sort of a dark color.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say if we can give it to the turkey vulture, we can give it to every vulture probably.
Sure. And then
and by extension, the rest of the group.
Yeah, the eagles. Awesome. Okay, well, that is a 5-star bird group to get us started this time. They are diverse, famous, amazing, intriguing, and beautiful. 5 out of 5 stars.
Big scary claws.
Big scary claws. You had to give them the 5 stars, right? There's an eagle off camera with its talons.
They're holding me. Help me. Save me, people.
Our next bird group that we're talking about are the Gaviiformes, which are loons. It's got 2 eyes in there. So how would you pronounce that?
I don't know. It's not like sort of user friendly like Hawaiian or Polynesian where you put like a weird apostrophe between the 2 vowels.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be yeah.
Gaviiformes. Okay, they're the loons. There are 5 species of loons, and all their birds in this group are loons. That's not a comment about them, that's just what they're called. Loons are fishing divers. Their feet are way back on their bodies to propel them through the water. They can dive up to 200 feet chasing prey like fish and mollusks, and they swallow most of their food before they come back to the surface, which is efficient. They also have famously eerie calls that ring out across twilight waters. Are these birds diverse?
They are not a very diverse little group of birds.
There's exactly 5 species. All of them are loons. That is not diverse. Are these birds famous, though?
In some parts of the world, maybe not, but like, especially if you're from like Minnesota, where it's your state bird. Like,
True, yeah.
Loons are kind of a big deal there.
Right. Or like the Canadian loonie, the $1 coin.
Anywhere where you have these large boreal lakes, I think, whether it's Scotland or, Scandinavia or, Minnesota or Canada, I think loons are relatively famous.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it really depends on where you are, but for some people, it is famous.
This is a weird one.
Regionally famous.
It's regionally famous.
But we're talking about the entire world. I don't think the entire world.
And that's where it's like, I don't see like Australians or Argentinians because they're as far removed from it as you can get. Like being, yes, those loons up north.
Okay. Well, I think we will not give them the fame star, but we'll acknowledge the fact that a lot of people in certain areas of the world do know about them. Are these birds amazing?
A loon once killed a bald eagle, which was the most fascinating thing in my research. Since we were talking about last time about how like cool the talons are, loons have these razor sharp beaks.
Huh.
And there is a case where a bald eagle. I think it was messing with a nest. It was
Okay.
going to take down a chick or something. And the loon attacked, and the pointed beak went right through the eagle's heart.
Whoa. It's amazing just for its fish catching ability, but then the fact that it can also be used as an offensive weapon. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Let's give them the amazing star then for being bald eagle killers, and also fish killers. Are these birds intriguing?
The one thing that I've always found them kind of interesting is that their feet are so far back on their body that they kind of leads to some trouble walking.
That their feet are so far back that if they go up on land, they can't support their own body weight on their feet. So they kind of slide along the ground with their feet pushing them from behind. I think their calls are really interesting. They have 3 different calls, and each of them is for a different scenario. But those eerie calls that ring out over lakes at night, those actually are like loons saying something to each other.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I always love, when people do research and figure out what calls kind of mean.
Mm-hmm. I think that if scientists continue to study those calls, they might find something new about bird communication. And if they study more about the feet, they might find about the trade-offs. Every adaptation has pros and cons, and some birds just go way past the con category, chasing a different type of benefit. Scientists could learn more about trade-offs. That's what I'm trying to say. Are these birds beautiful?
Their breeding plumage is spectacular.
Yeah, this is just one of the 5 species, and this is an average one, but really all the loons look really nice. This is another group where all the birds, there are no ugly members of the group.
I mean, it's nice when you only have a couple species, so
That's true.
Does help.
All 5 of them, but also all 5 are legitimately very beautiful.
Yeah.
They did that thing where they kicked all the other birds out of their group. Well, they got 3 out of 5. They're not diverse, they're not famous, they are amazing, they are intriguing, and they are beautiful. The next group coming up in the quest to study every bird are the columbiformes, the pigeons.
Yay!
There are 344 species of pigeons and doves, and that's it for famous members, pigeons and doves. It's worth pointing out that pigeons and doves are not biologically distinct, and the words can be used interchangeably. Rock pigeon, rock dove, it's all correct. Pigeons are among the most widespread of all birds, found on every continent except Antarctica, almost every island, and almost every city in the world. Part of their success is due to pigeon milk, which parents produce for young chicks and has similar nutritional value to mammal milk. It means parents don't need to find special food for their chicks and they can just eat about anything. Are these birds diverse?
That is a lot of species.
Yeah, 344 species.
There are enough, and I think there's enough hyphen groups where it's where you're very specific, like a ground dove or a fruit dove or crown pigeons.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to call them a crown dove, they're a crown pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's enough of these hyphen groups or very specific groups that are their own thing.
Sure.
I'm actually always shocked when I see pigeons or a book with pigeons in them. There's so many pigeons and doves.
Yeah, I think it's a situation very similar to owls, where they're all technically pigeons and doves, but there's so many different ways that they found to survive in different environments that it makes them diverse again. Well, let's give them the diversity star for that. Are pigeons famous?
I think everyone's probably seen one today.
Yeah, that's true. And they were in contention, as we were talking earlier, for the most sculpted bird of all time, with the dove being a symbol of peace, the pigeon being a symbol of peace.
The low melanin pigeon being
Right. Okay, well, let's call them famous then. Are these birds amazing?
I think they are. They're super maneuverable. They're some of the only birds that can drink water without using gravity, which is really cool and sort of strange, which I almost want to give them the intriguing for. It's what's with that as well, because birds have lost that ability to save muscle weight. Pigeons redevelop it.
So we can say that they're amazing because they have traits like the pigeon milk, and they have traits like the maneuverability and the adaptability that you were talking about, that they can go so many different places. The pigeon milk I find really interesting because I see it as a future health food craze. You know how people...
Oh, no.
You know how
That's
people...
We didn't talk about this with penguins and the emperor penguins, but they produce this form of crop milk that they form. The males hold on to a little bit of fish fat, and they're able to turn it into this probably really disgusting fish-flavored white stuff for the first meal of a baby emperor penguin. It's like,
Yeah.
mmm.
Yeah, just like dad used to make. So I picture a future snobby person being like, I only drink pigeon milk.
Knowing people, yes, that will be a future health food craze.
Okay, so they're amazing. And then you were saying they should get the intriguing star as well for their ability to drink while facing downwards. Because they can pump water with their tongues. They do a 2-step process where they pull water into their mouth with one pump. They pump it into their throat with the other pump.
Hearing that, it's like, yeah, that is a way of, after losing throat control type drinking mechanism, that using the tongue is a very clever way of re-engineering that.
Yeah, totally. And they don't have lips, so they can't seal their mouths around a straw like we could. But why do they do it? My theory is that it lets them get back to their pigeon business faster.
Their pigeon business.
Yes. I have no idea, but we should learn more. So they should get an intriguing star. Are these birds beautiful?
I think there's very few ugly members. And even, I know they're called the rats of the city or whatnot, but like your average rock dove is a pretty nice looking bird.
Yeah. It's got fashionable grays with iridescent greens and blues on it. Yeah, they look really nice. And then there's all the different color morphs and they all look really nice. And yeah, they're very beautiful birds.
Have you seen the bright orange ones?
No, bright orange pigeons?
There's some fruit doves that are just orange.
That would be cool. Yeah, it seems like all the different colors are represented in their feathers in some species. There's the like fruit doves that are different shades of pink and green, and yeah, they're very nice. Awesome. Well, congratulations, pigeons. And then there's the Nicobar pigeon, which is just like beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
In every regard.
Sparkly with, yeah.
All right. Amazing entry. We have our second 5-star bird group of the day.
It's just 5 stars. I think another one's coming next.
Is there a pigeon off camera also?
Yeah, there's pigeons.
You became famous enough that they sent representatives to your house to like lobby for their...
Yeah, there's just birds out there.
Vote for Loons. Sorry, Loons. But pigeons get 5 stars. They're the pinnacle of birdness, along with eagles.
But now comes the juggernaut.
The juggernaut. Passeriformes? What do you think?
Passeriformes, yeah.
Passeriformes. This is the downside of like reading a lot, is that you don't always know how to pronounce words, but okay.
It's like the first time I've heard half these things out loud.
These things are never spoken of.
These are words that are never spoken.
The Passeriformes, the perching birds, or songbirds as they are known. Their famous members: sparrows, orioles, crows, robins, canaries, wrens, bluebirds, cardinals, starlings, and we could keep going, but you get the idea. There's a lot. There are 6,533 species in this group, and they're everywhere.
I think it might be the largest vertebrate order, but I'm not sure.
Oh, that's good to know. That's a cool bit of trivia that it's so diverse.
I think there's only like 6,000 mammals total.
So there's as many songbirds as there are mammals. There's a lot of them. This group has more species than the rest of the bird groups put together. It's also the most numerous type of bird in almost every environment on Earth. What makes them so successful? Researchers have suggested that building their own nests out of available materials has led to their reproductive success. Or maybe they are more adaptable to new niches than other birds. It does seem like passerines have found every available niche. The carnivorous shrike, the tool-using crows, the massive flocks of starlings, the toxic feathers of the pitowie. Are these birds diverse?
Like, you have half the birds and like at least 3 distinctive kinds of wrens, just wrens that are completely different from each other, that sort of resemble each other.
Mm-hmm. Like the robin, the European robin that's pictured right here. There's also the American robin and the Australian robin. None of them are related to each other. They're all like distant related cousin groups. You could do an entire Every Bird Ranked about just the passerine groups. You go one step down.
If this gets really successful, it's like just do all the different passerine families.
Songbirds. That would be a really nice one to do because they're all like really nice looking. So
and there's some really weird groups in there. Like, what is an emu wren?
I don't know. I've never heard of that before. Are these birds famous?
Yeah, I mean, you have sparrows. They do edge in as one of the few groups found on every continent because there's one Antarctic passerine. So, like, everybody's seen them today.
Wow.
Pretty much everyone, except if you live on the Antarctic continent, because the only Antarctic passerine lives on South Georgia Island.
But even if you've been on that island, then you've seen one today.
You've probably seen a passerine today.
They're famous. People might not know that the group exists, that Passeriformes is the name of the group, but everybody knows some of the birds in this group.
There's rhymes, there's songs, there's Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Yeah, I mean, it's like very famous stories.
Yeah. Are these birds amazing?
They've basically filled every niche except going out to the ocean, though the dipper is kind of like a shorebird. So they kind of have a couple birds kind of edging into the territory of some of these water birds. But yeah, you've got predators, you've got large ground birds with the lyrebirds, you have nuthatches and different birds that are feeding under the bark. You have swallows, which are kind of like the swifts, but they're passerines. There's the vampire finches in the Galapagos that drink blood because there's not enough water in their ecosystem.
That is an extremely amazing group of birds. That's not even close. There's so much to appreciate about this group. Are they intriguing, would you say?
Yeah, they're very intriguing. And one of my things that was very fascinating, I did a video kind of on passerines morphology because there's three main groups, the New Zealand wrens, and then you got subocines and ocines. And what's really strange is that all the common species are these hyper-derived, most of the birds that most people know are highly derived, very distinctive birds that are the ocines. And then there's all these weird birds in the tropics that are these subocines.
Yeah, that was a cool video. I'll link it here so that people can go learn more about passerines. Well, let's give them the intriguing star. And to round it out, are they beautiful?
They're one of the groups. I don't think they quite make it to where every member, because there's these birds called friar birds from Australia that have like these bald heads and they're kind of brown. But other than that, they're either kind of nondescript and brown. But there are so many stunning species, like the birds of paradise. Some of the most famous, colorful birds out there. So,
yeah, okay. So the other 6,500 species are beautiful. There's more beautiful birds in Passeriformes than there are entire other groups of birds.
Probably. That's probably a safe bet to take.
Wow, we just set a record, that was the fastest we've ever given out 5 stars to any bird group. Usually we spend a lot more time talking about them, but there's just so much to appreciate about them that we just like...
You have to cut it down because you can talk about this for hours.
Right. We have our third 5-star group. I think we're in a good mood or something today.
Great mood.
Let's move to our next bird group. Our next bird group is the Opisthocomiformes.
We'll say that.
I don't know if I said it.
I don't want to say it. This is an unspeakable word here.
These things are not spoken. It's the Hoatzin. There's one species in this entire bird order.
The common name is unspeakable too.
And the famous members in this group, there's one species and it's a Hoatzin. The end. There is exactly one species of Hoatzin alive today, and it's very different than most birds. Its primary diet is leaves, for one thing. They have a large modified crop, which lets symbiotic bacteria break down leaves by fermentation. The young Hoatzin can escape predators by jumping out of their nest into the water and swimming. They then climb back up into the nest when it's safe using a pair of wing claws. Are these birds diverse? Let's start there. No, there's one species.
One. The Hoatzin.
The one and only. Are these birds famous, though?
I think they're reasonably well known for weird, obscure bird group, where you have one or a handful of members. When you're getting into weird birds, like this is probably one of the first ones you're going to learn of weird, obscure bird groups, because it is so weird. That's
a very good point. And especially if you compare it to a similar species, the cuckoo roller, which is also a one species bird order. Nobody's ever heard of the cuckoo roller, ever. And then Hoatzin, it's got a chance, at least. For people who really know birds, they're going to know about the Hoatzin.
It has a following.
It has a following. I would say, though, that if we're talking about the entire Earth, and in the same way that the loon is not known worldwide, I don't think the Hoatzin is going to make it up into the famous category. Because if you stop somebody on the street, they're not going to know it.
This is a test. You need to go somewhere and just start asking people. This should be like the follow-up video, just on the street asking random people, hey, have you ever heard of a cuckoo roller? Just title it that.
Mm. So we're not giving them the famous star, but are these birds amazing?
I would say that, and to shorten this up, I'd say the things that make them amazing also make them intriguing.
Okay.
With these the claws, and then there are these herbivores that have done these that have gut fermentation, which is very unique because it is heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for like a flying bird, that's pretty insane to try and do.
Right. So leaves are fairly low density energy foods. And so you have to store them and rely on symbiotic bacteria to break down the cellulose, which means that you have to hold the food inside your body for days. And that makes it so that the Hoatzin can't fly as well. They're pretty poor flyers just because they have this digestive adaptation to eat leaves. One thing that gives them, though, is I've heard that these are doing pretty well in modern times because people will not eat them because they smell horrible.
Yeah, and it's very unique. Geese also eat a lot of leaf material, but they do the panda strategy of just quantity and getting very little nutrients out of per part of food, but they just eat so much of it that they're able to extract enough nutrients.
So we're giving them a double star, the amazing and intriguing stars, all in one, because they're so amazing that the things that we can learn about them, they're so different than other birds. It's going to teach us a lot about every other type of bird. Are these birds beautiful?
I think they are. They look like a phoenix to me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like a phoenix was definitely based on a Hoatzin.
Even though the people who came up with the phoenix myth had never seen one of these birds. They most certainly inspired it.
Okay, well, let's give them 3 stars then. They're not diverse, they're not famous, but they are amazing, intriguing, and beautiful. So with that, with this amazing group that has 3 out of 5 5-star birds, we have learned so many interesting things about birds. And thank you so much for joining us. If you want to know when future videos in this series come out, please subscribe and you'll get a notification when that arrives. You can go over to Backyard Expeditions channel and you can subscribe there to learn everything that you ever wanted to know about birds. His knowledge is amazing. He's been so generous in sharing it with us here. And so I encourage you to go over there and learn even more about birds. Thanks for stopping by this week to learn what makes life awesome.